Take it
easy. Take it easy. That's a good song. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name's Jeff Hopkins, and I'm joined as usual by my good buddy Richard.
Hello.
And my good pal Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael often debate the Mount Rushmore of any given topic, the four things which best represent a certain topic. And this week, it's a topic that I chose, and that is people who have been or were trapped in something or someplace.
What made you think of this, Jeff?
What made me think of this? You know,
that you're trapped in this podcast.
Yeah, trapped in this podcast.
We won't let you leave.
This, not existentially. I'm literally shackled to this laptop and these microphones, and I am fascinated by how news media goes haywire for when somebody is in a crisis and we need to do something about it. And it makes international news, and all these support services for any given city or place will jump into action to try to save that person while people are dying left and right everywhere else all the time. But those people then go on to live a life, maybe it's completely inconsequential, but they are at one point this focus of the goodwill of everybody on the planet, and then afterwards they go off to be anonymous nobodies if they survive. Sometimes they just die in that hole. So I would like to pick the person who is going to talk. Which of you guys thinks you're most trapped? Okay, Richard, you go first.
I'm pretty much trapped.
Well, you are in your own house.
Okay.
But you gave honors to Richard, so go for it, Richard.
After you.
Oh, well, all right then. So I'm going with Bill Murray from Groundhog Day.
Oh, that's a great little
Phil
choice.
Connors, who is not physically trapped, but is metaphysically trapped in the same day over and over and over again. I don't know. Is this the best comedy ever? It's in the running. It's in the running.
Favorite.
I mean,
it's well done on all levels.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and it's incredibly high rewatchability level.
Yeah, literally.
Exactly. There you go. For a while, I actually had put I Got You Babe on. This was like back in the 90s when you could do like the... we could have like a song that you could like hook up to your iPad.
Yeah.
To have that. So I did that a couple of times just to...
that's funny.
My wife.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have seen it. I mean, basically, he's Phil Connors. He's a very full of himself Pennsylvania weatherman who gets stuck having to go to Puxaconnie.
I don't think you said that right.
No, let's try that again.
Okay.
Who gets stuck going to Puxaconnie, Pennsylvania.
I think I'm not hearing the N.
Who gets
Wait, say Phil Connors.
stuck going to Puxaconnie.
Isn't it Punxsutawney?
Tawny. Tawny Kitane.
Okay.
I get it? Okay.
All right, okay.
I just had to shut up during that strange moment of...
We just turned into like a surreal, like a sitcom.
What city does Phil Connors go to?
Puxaconnie?
He's in Portland, Maine.
Let's just say he's
What happens when he gets there?
Shitbird, Pennsylvania. And then he's just reporting on the, groundhog that pops up, sees its shadow or not. He just hates being there. Mainly, I would assume, because he's got Chris Elliott as his producer. Mm-hmm. That would make anyone kind of cranky. I think we could all...
He's a camera person.
That. Oh, is he a camera person?
Yeah.
Oh, Andy McDowell.
Andy McDowell's the producer, yeah.
Right. And he's trying to put the moves on her, and she sensibly wants nothing to do with him. Goes to sleep, wakes up the next day, and it's still Groundhog Day. Has to go out and do the same thing. And
Deja vu starts to kick in.
Yeah,
it's just like weird.
Just like every day, he goes to sleep and wakes up, and it's Groundhog Day with... I believe, is it Harry Shearer that's doing the voice of like the wacky morning guy?
I know Harold Ramis is one of them.
Yeah, I think the other one might be Harry Shearer. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
He kind of goes through all these steps of like, well, what would you do if like you were living the same day over and over again? He goes and robs a bank, and he hires a prostitute one day to go, show up in a limo. Tries to, do all these like ridiculous, over the top things. And then starts to get really depressed about it and winds up killing himself over and over and over again. And eventually kind of realizes, you know what? I can actually use this to better myself.
Yeah.
So then he starts learning how to play piano, which he always wanted to do, and do reading, and make his broadcast of the groundhog coming up as great as it could possibly be. It's actually been said that it's sort of a Buddhist movie almost, because it's that same sort of interpretation. And actually Harold Ramis's My mother-in-law is actually a Zen Buddhist. Was. And yeah, this is sort of that idea that in Buddhism, you just kind of have to try and do something until you're aiming for perfection, even though you may not ever get it. And Bill Murray winds up kind of like almost like the Bodhisattva in a lot of ways, who's kind of this idea of someone who has the opportunity to reach nirvana, but decides not to do it and decides to come back. So that's the deep version of it, and sort of from a trap standpoint, it's like, what would you do if you're trapped?
He must have been living the same day for 10,000 years.
Yeah, I tried to figure this out one time. I thought there was something online. I couldn't find it. I'll see if I do find it. We can put it up on the show notes. But yeah, I think someone worked this out, and it's like to be able to learn how to play piano to like virtuoso level, and all these other things that he was able to accomplish in like one day.
It's just he becomes like omnipotent.
Punxsutawney.
Yeah.
He becomes omnipotent about that world.
Yeah.
Where he knows everything that has ever happened or will happen.
Right. Everybody about everybody in the town.
About everybody in the town, and you could that's millions of lifetimes, or who knows. I mean, I think that's. And he plays it off so well by the end. He kind of reaches like this calm. He reaches that kind of nirvana where he's just like, this is my life. I know it's never going to change, and I just have to kind of get better at this life.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though it's the same day. And
it's that sort of speech he winds up actually with Annie Medell, and he tries to explain it to her. And the whole point is just sort of, even if I wind up going back and I never get stuck out of this, I'm happy where I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, from a depth standpoint, there's a lot going on with it, but
his journey from independence to interdependence, and from almost of this narcissist personality disorder to this guy who thinks he's only as good as the people he can help.
Yeah,
and it's just a beautiful life journey.
And two more things, real quick. You can kind of track this through his interactions with Ned Ryerson.
Yeah,
one of the Stephen Tobolowsky, one of the greatest character actors. The annoying needle-nosed Ned, who goes from recognizing him on the street, and at the beginning, it's sort of like, gives her like, hey, you want to buy some life insurance? Oh, you remember me? Needle-nosed Ned.
Yeah.
Dated your sister till you told me to stop.
Yeah.
And then, like, eventually later on, as he's getting really depressed, ends up just slugging him.
Yeah.
To the end, he's like buying a whole life insurance and term policy and basically making his year.
Yeah, literally learning the value of life.
Yeah, basically.
It's something we have to save and protect. I think that film maybe is one of the closest to coming to a It's a Wonderful Life level of journey for a character, and then kind of a payoff at the end, because it's really a time travel movie, like A Christmas Carol, where this person goes on this impossible journey, and encounters all these people who impact their life, and then is able to wake up the next day and learn that he hasn't missed it. Life is still there for him to celebrate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. What's your first, Michael?
Well, I have 4 categories this week. I took a little time off from doing them.
Oh, wow.
And my 4 are...
Take some more time off if you like.
There you go. Accidental, natural, hostage, and self-inflicted.
I love it.
But the first one is Baby Jessica.
Oh, yeah.
I think that this is the exact person you kind of had in mind when you thought this up. She fell down that well in October 16th, 1987, close to just over 29 years ago. Mm-hmm. And she was like a 2-year-old baby. No, 18 months, something like that. And she was in the backyard of her like daycare center, and somehow, I guess you just have open wells.
Was it a daycare center, or was it like her mom's backyard?
I think her mom ran a daycare.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Something like that.
Oh, my God.
So she fell down a 20-foot well and was stuck there for something like 58 hours. Not like exactly 58 hours, because I just read that off of my computer.
Did they throw a Lunchables down at her or something like that?
They sent her an ecto cooler and a Lunchables. And I guess the space, it was so small that they had to like retrench or dig out another tunnel to get down to her. It wasn't as easy as just like, also she was 18 months old. I mean,
my God.
It's not like the babies can really understand, like, hold on to this and we're going to lower this down. She was wedged in there. But I think, like you said, it kind of created this national like story that everyone was following. Eventually, she got a call. You know, she was rescued. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
She was pulled out of the well, and it became like a weird national TV monument. Like, I remember watching it, but I don't, like, it's tough to know exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 9 years old or something.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was a kid, and it was so relatable because it was such a weird thing. But, you know, she went on to be okay.
I feel like today, if this happened, as soon as she gets age of majority, Vivid Entertainment would offer a porn contract. I also think that this is very similar to the kind of patriotism that happens after an attack on our country. Were somebody to ever, when this becomes sensational and it's on television, and if you were to ever question, why are we prioritizing the life of one child over those of all the children that the
that have fallen down wells,
or that are currently being unprotected by the people who are going out to try to save this child? The first thing somebody asks is, "What's the matter? Don't you like babies?" And then you look like the asshole in the room. So, what?
Someone has to always take the con side of things.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Obviously, Richard chose an existential interpretation, and I think I also chose a very literal one of this. So, but the question might be to Phil Connors and Baby Jessica: aren't we all trapped in a fucking well?
Yeah, pretty much. That's a metaphor for life if I've ever goddamn heard one. I remember, I mean, I'm a few years older than you, and I know, Jeff, you're a little bit older than me. So I have more of like, I remember like this was when CNN like became a thing. Because they covered it 24/7.
Yeah.
This was like one of the first like national, at least, 24/7 kind of news broadcast about something that, yes, it's tragic that something was happening to this little kid, but in the grand scheme of like what's happening in the world, politics and everything else that was going on was super inconsequential.
Yeah.
I think it's ultimately just kind of humanizing. Like when you can focus on one particular person. Oh, I bet like it was her age, you know, being 2 years old or just under 2 years old. Like that's one of those things that kind of takes you out of the moment. You can identify that more than people in a war.
Yeah, I did a little research because I had this on my list for a while, and then I took it off, and I'm glad you had it on. Because I remembered this story that in KTLA back in 1949 did the first sort of like live news broadcast around the clock from an emergency situation. And it was this girl, Catherine Fiscus. She was 3, and she fell down a abandoned water well at her house in San Marino. And now you might remember Stan Chambers. The newsman for KTLA was like for like 70 years.
Yeah.
This was like his first big assignment.
That was his break.
And KTLA went out there and they covered it for however long they were out there, a couple of days, until they were able to get someone out there. And she was dead.
Oh.
Which I've always thought about, like, boy, what would have happened to baby Jessica? Oh, sorry, we couldn't save her, you know.
Yeah.
Like, what a national downer that would have been.
Yeah, who are we as a country if our children fall in holes, we can't pull them out?
Right, and I had actually thought about another one was the when Bart Simpson got trapped.
Oh, sure, Timmy O'Toole.
Timmy O'Toole, yeah, sending our love down a well. The
Sting song. Just to talk about The Simpsons for half a second, I love that. Much like last week, you talked about like Parks and Recs, how they kind of live in their own, universe, their own bubble. Like, people kind of invade the Simpsons universe from time to time, and the Sending Our Love Down the Well, they had, like, their celebrity We Are the World group, and it was, like, Kent Brockman, their local news channel. It was the Bumblebee Man.
Krusty.
It was Krusty the Clown. And then Sting.
And
like, it's all these nobodies surrounded by this one. Like, and in this town, they are just as famous as Sting.
Yeah.
And the best part of that whole episode is eventually, you know, Bart actually falls in. They wind up saving him. And groundskeeper Willie says something like, well, I'm going to make sure this never happens again. And instead of closing up the well, just puts up a sign that says danger well.
I'd, in my flimsy research, read that the guy who saved baby Jessica killed himself.
Yeah, there's the guy who went down there. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Also, she did get an $800,000 trust fund when she turned 21.
Oh, wow.
That was like raised by the people from CNN.
Oh, good job, America.
And I also remember the episode of What's Up With That, where one of the people they brought out was baby Jessica in a well.
Okay, so Richard, it's your second.
All right, so my second one, I'm going to stick with the kind of metaphysical being stuck and also fictional. I'm going with Scott Bakula's character from Quantum Leap, Sam Beckett.
Oh.
One of my favorite shows growing up as a kid.
God, I can't wait till they remake it with a crappy cast on ABC next year.
Oh, for hell's sake. Let's not.
Sofia Vergara, Quantum Leap.
Why am I making a quantum leap? Now I have leaped into someone else's body? Gucci. Oh, wait, that's not
that's
her.
Charles.
Charo. Slightly different.
I'm physicist Stephen Hawking. I'm an executioner in the 15th century.
What a ridiculous concept for a show.
It really is a silly concept for a show. I mean, so if you guys have never seen it.
Was there one where he had Down syndrome or something?
Yes.
Oh, God, that's horrible.
Yes. So the basic concept is he is some sort of physicist or some sort of like scientisty guy who winds up trying to do an experiment that gets him sucked into like a time-space loop. Mm-hmm. And where he winds up inhabiting the bodies of these people, could be any time, any place, any type of body. So sometimes it's females.
Not any time. It had to be
like within his lifetime.
Within his lifetime, which makes absolutely
no
no
sense.
sense.
There's no reason for that.
And
they had to put parameters on there so it wasn't like, I'm in a centurion in Rome.
That was too much like the show Voyagers, I think. You remember Voyagers, Jeff?
I never watched
John Michael Hexum or whatever, John Eric Hexum, the guy who...
never did. Oh, he did too? Oh,
wow. No, he's the guy who was on Scarecrow and Mrs. King or something, and he... Later on, and there was like one of those like blank gun accidents.
The Mount Rushmore podcast is officially the 1984 television TV guide, show of record.
Yes, we got you covered, boys.
Did you like Quantum Leap?
Yeah, I loved it. It was one of my favorite shows growing up. And Scott Bakula, another, as we mentioned, I think previously on the show, was the Jimmy Smits being on the Mount Rushmore of TV actors.
Yeah,
put Scott Bakula on there. I think.
Yeah,
as well.
Bakula never had a movie career.
Well, Necessary Roughness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
He was in American Beauty.
You're
Cameo
right.
is the name.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So back to this show. I mean, basically, he gets stuck in this time loop, has to go back, winds up going back in the past, inhabiting, could be anybody, and his only link is Dean Stockwell, which means you're fucked.
Yeah.
If you're linked in, your lifeline is Dean Stockwell.
Yeah.
You're in a lot of trouble.
He was still the creepy guy in Blue Velvet for me at that time. But,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know that his character may have still been the guy from Blue Velvet, but just sort of toned down.
Yeah.
And he's also got like this, but see, you can only see him as like a hologram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like they've got some sort, and then they've got like the thing that tells them here's who you are, and there's like a 48% chance that this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like a fun because it was like, you're right, it's a completely goofy concept. But once you work past that and kind of just buy into it, it's like it's a great anthology sort of. You don't have to get wrapped up in like a big, week to week sort of.
You could tell a lot of different stories, and the fish out of water aspect kind of played into whether he was jumping into the military guy or jumping into a woman's body, which was always hilarious.
Yeah, and then sometimes they would mix it up. One of my favorite episodes, he gets jumped into the body of like a farmhand in West Texas in the 1950s. And the thing tells him like it's a 78% chance you're supposed to help the wife, divorce her abusive husband or whatever it was. And he does it, and he's waiting for the leap. And it doesn't happen. So he's like figuring out, okay, what am I supposed to do? And he sees another farmhand playing a guitar. He's like, what are you doing, buddy? Well, I'm just trying to write this song, but I'm kind of hard on the lyrics. And it's Buddy Holly trying to write Peggy Sue, and he can't figure out the name. He's like, Mindy Lou.
Okay.
Why don't you try Peggy Sue? That might roll off the tongue better. And immediately jumps.
Yeah.
The only thing that bothered me about that show, I think this is a fun pick. I like the show a lot. Was it the computer that is it Al or Hal that Al had was just like this faux scientific multicolored
Mattel football games.
It was just like it was, and it made the dumbest. I think it made like the dumbest noises, and like that took me out. It was like that's not the future.
Yeah, no,
the future isn't a Light Bright or a or a game of Simon Says.
Yeah. And also had one of the worst endings of any TV show ever.
Oh, really?
It was like literally like basically they ended it with a caption on screen that said Sam Beckett never jumped back to his body.
Oh God!
It was basically the Poochie
Yeah, I have to go back to my planet now.
Yeah, and then he died on impact. That's basically it.
Okay, your second, Michael.
Well, I'm going to keep it depressing under my natural category
I love it.
of the Donner family pass.
Oh, I love
and
this.
the Donner family.
Delicious.
1846 to 1847. The Donner family and their families left Springfield, Illinois, headed towards California, because, that's what you did in the 1840s.
California, here we come.
They went out to strike it rich, I'm sure, with the gold mine, and along the way they left their location, the place that you kind of take off from. They left like a month late. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they didn't have their bags packed or if they're just like lollygagging. But
Well, I think Priceline had some low prices on wagons.
Priceline.
You got to transfer on a burro. You start on a
Can we upgrade you to?
Well, you have to name your price. So you have to say, okay, do I want a 2-star wagon, a 1-star burro?
Well, they eventually got stuck in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and basically they froze to death.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of the people. It became famous because ultimately they took the wrong path. Like they tried to, that never happens. Like when you're trying to make up time, it's like, well, let's take this quote unquote shortcut. But then it was just like, I don't even like it, using Waze.
Yeah.
Where I'm just gonna stay on the freeway and ride this one out.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll take a little bit longer, but I know if I'm on the 101, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And they ended up getting stuck, and the roads became too treacherous and too icy and too snowed in.
Yeah.
And they had to start trying to survive.
Yeah.
And ended up killing the dogs. They ended up killing the pack animals.
It's some locally sourced, cruelty-free protein.
And then they just started eating each other. Not all of them, but the best thing is that they killed their 2 guides first.
Oh.
People that helped get them into this mess. They're 2 Indian guides.
Oh, I thought they just killed people. I thought they ate those who had died naturally.
They started.
Oh, okay.
They started with.
That's only going to go so long, though. I mean,
Okay.
No, it actually
nobody volunteered to die naturally.
Yeah.
It actually started with murder, and they killed their 2 guides, Salvador and Louis.
Oh man.
well, Salvador sounds kind of Italian-y. Probably did something.
But he sounds yummy, though. I bet he seasoned well.
Seasoned a little bit of paprika, a little tomato sauce on him. More.
Eventually, and they were just trapped there for something like 8 months, and just how I can't imagine the horrible condition and starvation that you must be in to resort to eating people.
Oh my god! I just watched The Shining a few days ago, and there's a movie that telegraphs all of its punches. And one from Jack Nicholson's just goggle-eyed overacting. He's acting maniacal and insane so much that you think, oh, he can't really be insane. He's acting too insane to be crazy. And at one point, Danny leans forward on their ride to the hotel. Dad, what was the Donner Party? And Nicholson just, well, they were some homesteaders who had to resort to cannibalism. It's like Nicholson doing a stand-up comic doing Nicholson.
Right. My family goes to Tahoe every year. And so we had
they don't always come back.
There used to be like 8 of us in the family. Just kind of working.
They ate us in the family.
Yeah. We used to need a giant SUV. Now we're down to compact. And you drive over the 80, and there's the rest stop the last rest stop before you go over it's the Donner Pass.
Oh, it is
rest stop.
Yeah,
that's so creepy.
And it's just like you stop, and the kids ask you what's the Donner Party, and then you have to decide whether or not you're comfortable telling them about. Well, this was where a lot of people had to freeze over the winter, and so they started eating each other.
I always wanted to be in a restaurant.
Hey guys, there's fish over here in the water. Why don't you come look at this?
Be at the Cheesecake Factory and be the host and go, Donner Party of 6, Donner Party of 5, Donner Party of 4. All right, so I believe that, does that bring us to the halftime?
Yeah, halftime.
Okay, all right. So Ladies and gentlemen, you have an opportunity to pull us out of this trap we're in on iTunes, and I think we're trapped in a place where not many people know about this podcast, and you can help us by rating it, by reviewing it, by posting links on your Facebook, by sharing the episodes you love with your friends and social media. You can do that on Twitter, and you can do that on Instagram. Follow us. That'll help people discover us trapped here in our well and hoist us to safety. So that was
You can write past episodes, too.
Oh, Richard is so far down. I'm shining a flashlight down. I don't think I can see him. Can you see me, Richard?
I see a bright light.
Okay, Richard. Well, we're going to throw some...
Can I go to the bright light?
I'm going to throw a bag of saltines down there for you.
Awesome. Could you present some pepperoni?
Jeez, he's gotten so demanding.
So greedy down that well.
It's not a well of entitlement. Oh, Richard is right. Rate the previous seasons or previous episodes.
Download. Listen to ones you haven't listened to before.
Yeah, listen to our back
You'll
catalog.
probably find audio quality is not so great on some.
It'll be like traveling back in time to an Edison cylinder.
Right.
Okay, if you like scratchy, loud things, go to our old podcast. We're back. Richard's crawled up out of the hole, and he's going to tell us his third.
We keep trying to hit him with a shovel to get him back down there.
Back down
Just won't stay. Like the girl from The Ring, basically, is what you're trying to say. I am going with the sailors of the USS Indianapolis.
Oh, wow.
Who got
Robert Shaw is about to do a monologue.
Give the story. Oh, trust me, I've got the entire monologue queued up here if you guys would like to hear a dramatic reading of it.
He got doll's eyes.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
For this podcast, we might. So the USS Indianapolis was a cruiser during World War II in the Pacific. It actually was on a run delivering parts for the atomic bomb that was going to be used in Hiroshima. And on its way, I think it went to Guam to drop off some sailors who were done with their tour. Picked up some more sailors.
No, we said atomic bomb, not atomic Guam.
Oh, no.
Oh, sad. And wound up getting torpedoed by a Navy submarine. Sank in 12 minutes. So there's 1,200 crewmen aboard. 300 of them died just with the sinking and the explosions. The other 900 were stuck for the next 4 days because the Navy didn't realize that the ship had actually gone down for a while. So it didn't send anybody out. A combination of exposure, dehydration, saltwater poisoning because people were going mad and drinking salt water, which then, of course, makes you even more mad. And, shark attacks. It's a bad couple of days if you're on that ship.
All of that's bad.
Yeah, none of those
any one of those is bad, but altogether it's just a whole stew of
badness. Think about it. You just got attacked, right? But you survived. You're alive.
The worst is behind me.
Yeah, but there's nothing. Okay, then
I'm just enjoying a nice swim.
So imagine you're just kind of sitting there I finally made it. Great. I got 1 day. I'm sure they're going to send out somebody's
going to pick us up. Yeah.
Bill, so we're going to Bill, we just got to hold on. Bill? Why is the water blood red? Oh, boy. And they don't know exactly how many were killed by the sharks. They actually think that, and to some extent, as people were dying, then the sharks were coming and picking off the bodies of the people who were dying. So it made it seem like more people were being attacked by sharks than actually were. But
okay.
But absolutely, people were being attacked by sharks.
Yeah.
And in fact, the rescue crew that actually finally found them was not supposed to make a water landing, but the pilot looked down and literally saw people being attacked by sharks and said, "You know what? Fuck this. I'm going down to get some people." So it's as Michael said, it's the story that Quint tells. It's supposed to be a survivor of the USS Indianapolis in Jaws, and probably one of the defining scenes of that whole movie.
Yeah, it's a perfect scene.
The idea was, shark comes to the nearest man, that man he start pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes
I would love it if there was one, in addition to the shipwreck and then the sharks, if one crew member had a radio and it was just playing just a Celine Dion album or something like that,
and
over and over
again.
again. Like the people are like, what? How could it be even worse than this? And then
God, I wish a shark would eat me to get me out of this.
I drove all night.
That's a pretty good song.
All right.
And so, last thing about this, real quick, the captain of the ship, Charles McAvey, wound up getting court-martialed because the Navy claimed that he wasn't zigzagging to avoid torpedo fire, and they actually called the Japanese pilot or the captain of the submarine who shot him, brought him in from Japan to try to testify against him, and he said no, he actually was doing the right thing. There was no way that I wasn't going to hit him even if he was zigzagging.
And then he shot everybody in the courtroom.
Yeah, and then committed seppuku. And then, so they wound up, Nimitz winds up reducing the sentence. He restores him to active duty. He winds up retiring in 49 as a rear admiral. But basically, while most of the crew thought he didn't have anything to do with it, some of the survivors, the people who died, did. Like, he would get letters that would say, "Merry Christmas! Our family's holiday would be a lot merrier if you hadn't killed my son."
Oh, God, it's awful.
There's some brutal
So
letters.
he wound up killing himself in 1968 with his Navy issue rifle on his front lawn with a toy sailor in a hand.
Or what? A
Toy sailor, like a little
a doll.
toy. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that's it.
A little
Okay, move on to the next one.
A little too on the nose, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that one coming.
Okay, Michael, what's your next choice?
My category is Hostage, and it's the book or the movie Misery by Stephen King.
Ooh,
wow.
good one. Yeah, I like that.
The book and the movie are basically the same. There's like one, like the ending's a little bit different. But I mean, like anything that's like translated.
But Kathy Bates is in the book.
yeah,
Okay.
her character.
Okay.
So it's about an author, Paul Sheldon, who writes a number of. He's like been writing a series of like romance novels about this character named Misery Chastain, and he's kind of at the point in his career where he's done with it. His last novel in the Misery line is about to come out, and he's been working on like a new character and a new set of ideas because he's just over it. So he kind of goes off in this like retreat to write, and he's in the Colorado mountains, and after he finishes the novel, his new manuscript for his new book, he's driving home or driving back to the airport. His car goes off the road, and he's like trapped in a snowstorm. Mm-hmm. Eventually, he's rescued by like kind of this field nurse that lives out in the like kind of in the woods, and that's like Annie Wilkins or Annie Wilkes. Mm-hmm. It's the Kathy Bates character, mm-hmm. and she gets him back to her cabin, and he's miles away. They're miles away from anywhere, so he's injured, and he's slowly being nursed back to health by this character. And of course, he finds out that she's the biggest Misery Chastain fan, or like as a writer, he's her favorite author.
Yeah,
and so she's nursing him back to health, and it's going pretty slowly. And she reads her two things happen. One, she reads his new manuscript, and she can't deal with it because she doesn't care about the character.
Yeah,
and she kind of loses it a little bit. And two, she goes to town to pick up like his new novel, mm-hmm. or the last of the Misery novels.
Yeah,
and the Misery character dies. You kind of learn that she's a psychopath. Yeah, that she might have killed a bunch of people in her past, as well as a nurse, mm-hmm. and mm-hmm. So throughout the movie, you realize that Paul is being poisoned by her, and he tries to get away, tries to escape. Yeah. And in one of the most horrific scenes in a film, she has him tied up. She puts a block of wood between his ankles, and she hobbles his feet. And it's just, and that's one of the big differences in like the movie and the book is a lot more grotesque.
Yeah, she actually just chops off his leg.
She chops off his foot. She also like cuts off part of his fingernails or a part of his fingers because he's not typing fast enough. Like she's like a sociopath.
Yeah.
Ultimately, yada yada yada.
Well, that's your judgment of her. Yeah.
He kills her.
Yeah.
He escapes and kills her. And, is traumatized for life. But being under someone else's control to the extent that you just like you can't physically fight back with her. And you're just this hostage, and you're just trapped in this.
Because she's a bruiser. I mean, she played a linebacker, I think, in Western Kentucky.
I love the Stephen King only just mildly fictionalizes his actual feelings about his career. It's that, let me die, people. Let me step out of this type of this genre that I work in, or his Dark Tower series, or all these different series that he's started, and he's kind of begging his audience, or Stephen King may, be in a rock band or hang around at the types of places that other authors who write series, like Sue Grafton, who has to write A is for Apple and M is for Murder and all that stuff, and knows that these people are lucky enough to be trapped economically in this role where they have to provide. And I think it's true now of this Comic-Con culture where the fans have such a close relationship with artists now. It's almost just a shackle. Do you
think that Sue Grafton, when she finished with Z, does she have to start like with exclamation point and underscore?
Schwaz for Schwa aside, yeah.
Well, like the Annie Wilkes character. Sorry,
go ahead.
The Annie Wilkes character. So she also has like that. The final novel of her favorite character dies, and like, of course, she makes him write a new novel with a new character, which I kind of think speaks to that. It's like you sometimes as a fan, you don't want this thing to end, and you want this thing to keep going on. Yeah. And
if this came out today, we'd just be talking about how it's a metaphor for like fan service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we'd be talking about.
Mm-hmm. This reminds me of when I attacked Shel Silverstein after the sidewalk ended.
I love this pick. I went back and was looking at this while you were talking because I had remembered Yahoo did like a big retrospective of that scene like last year. And because I remembered that like George Roy Hill, who did like The Sting, was set to direct the movie. And then he backed out at the last minute because he realized he just did not want to film that scene. And Rob Reiner was producing, had to jump in. Mm-hmm. And like so many who was it? Warren Beatty was really interested in playing James Caan's role, but couldn't deal with that scene. And basically his thing was, well, even if he keeps his legs, he's going to be crippled. He's going to be a loser the rest of his life.
Oh my God.
But it's like, basically it's like this laundry list of like great American actors who pretty much all to like, William Hurt, Robert De Niro, Kevin Kline, all these people who like turned it down. In a lot of ways, it was because of that scene. Bette Midler was originally offered
the Kathy Bates role.
The Kathy Bates role, and she turned it down because of that scene.
Wow.
So this scene was so like disturbing. William Goldman, who wrote it, basically read it in the book and thought, wow, this is so disturbing. I didn't think people could do this to one another. I have to write this script.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
I think it's interesting too, like that the movie version, even though he doesn't like have his foot cut off, that would almost have been too comedic.
Right.
It's so much worse, and you just
there's something about that act of like the hobbling versus like you said, if it was cut off, it would almost be like a gory Freddy Krueger type thing. Yeah. But this is just like it's almost more the psychological kind of thing.
I do find some pain is relatable. If I see somebody in a movie get a paper cut, I'm out. You could shoot me, but don't give me a paper cut in a movie because I will leave the theater.
Well, you're blowing my pitch that I've got next week with Universal.
Oh my God, paper cut
the movie, yeah.
Oh, interior office supply warehouse day. Danny Ream is walking down the hallway. Okay, who's next?
I believe it's me, and I believe it's my last one.
Okay, make it good.
All right, so I'm going to make it good. This is the abduction of Shin Sang-ok and Choi Yoon-hee.
I think we all know where we were when this happened.
Yeah, do you guys remember when that happened? Shin was a famous South Korean film director and had been married, I think they were divorced at this time, to Choi, and made a lot of movies in the 1960s, basically made South Korean cinema in the 1960s. 1978, he gets abducted by Kim Jong-il. She gets abducted. A few months later, he's trying to find her and winds up getting abducted as well.
Oh, wow.
And winds up for almost 8 years is in North Korea, and Kim Jong-il forces them to make movies for him.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's a wild, wild story. So, they made several, because I'm
This
sure you
sounds
guys
like
probably
the-
know Kim Jong-il was like obsessed with movies. He had like 25,000 American movies, like this massive, like
collection.
I'm sure since it's North Korea, they're all on like Betamax.
Yeah,
or he's laser discs or something.
He borrowed one of my Superman films and hasn't gotten it back.
What a
It's
tool.
so
What a fascist.
That guy.
What a dictator.
He puts the dick in dictator.
Well, this seems like when Tom Cruise abducted Katie Holmes that one time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they had kids and stuff and got married.
Forced her to make Scientology. No, wait, that was
So how-
John Travolta.
Was it a very public abduction, or did he say he's their patron?
No, well, he basically, it was interesting because he kidnaps Choi first, and he houses her in this like really nice house and takes her to state dinners and is super complimentary. Meanwhile, after the husband shows up, puts him into like a prison camp, and he tries to escape. He tries to escape, gets put into like a prison camp for like 3 years. Then he basically sits down and says, "Look, I want you to make movies. I love movies. I want North Korean movies to be seen as, the best movies ever. We make the best movies here."
Did they win like whatever the North Korean version of the Academy?
Oscar.
Every year.
Every year.
And also,
I hope so.
Best producer, Kim Jong-il, yet again. And basically says, "We want you to make these movies. We'll give you an unlimited budget." And actually, apparently, Kim Jong-il, because the actress actually recorded secretly a lot of these conversations, and they survived. And there's a documentary that came out last year that is really good about it. And he actually admitted, like, all these movies that are getting made, there's very like hagiography, which of course it is. It's North Korea. What would you expect? But he wanted movies that would be a little more realistic and something that could really show the struggle. So he was saying, basically, I'll give you an unlimited budget. Whatever you need, we'll do it. And so, yeah, he made them come out in press conferences and say, no, we left for North Korea willingly because the studio system in South Korea is so constricting, and which really was the case. South Korea was actually still a military government at the time, and there's a lot of restrictions on what they could do. So they wound up making 6 movies, and the last one was, if you guys have ever seen the North Korean take on Godzilla, have you ever seen the clips
I haven't
of this?
seen this.
It's called Pulasari, and it is it's basically bad Godzilla, like 70s rubbery, really awful Godzilla, and they actually brought in the people who made that to work this Pulasari. They brought the Toho Studios guys, but like with this really tortured plot line that attempts to be an analogy to the like workers movement.
Okay.
And it's awful.
Not the good Godzilla plotline.
No, yeah, not the well thought out, thought provoking
Atomic
that
energy
we expect from our Godzilla movies.
So what was did they release these?
They wound up escaping. He wound up trusting him enough that they went to Vienna at a film festival to talk about their the shitty Godzilla movie, and basically were able to pull a Moscow on the Hudson and middle of the night escape. And there was even a lot of people who thought they were awfully close for a long time to them. Maybe this wasn't actually. Maybe they actually did kind of come over of their own devices. This was a big debate for a long time. So this is one thing that movie came out last year, and she played all these tapes.
Wow.
It was kind of proof finally no. And they did this, North Korea did this. They kidnapped a lot of Japanese artists and basically anyone that they needed to fill a kind of hole in their world. Instead of developing somebody, they just thought, we'll just steal a Japanese person.
Yeah. If you love someone, set them free.
Yeah, Kim Jong-il wrote that. So,
Free, set them free. Michael, what's your final choice?
Well, I think we should end this on a high note. This has been pretty depressing.
Yeah.
It's been pretty soul-crushing at times.
This will save us, Michael. Save us.
Winnie-the-Pooh.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Winnie-the-Pooh and the Honey Tree, which was a Disney animated short based on the A.A. Milne book, or a chapter in one of his books. And it was later included in the big Winnie-the-Pooh movie.
Yeah. I would love if it was George R.R. Milne.
So dumb. Well, one day.
Okay.
Winnie-the-Pooh.
Tell me a story, Michael.
One day, Winnie-the-Pooh wakes up and discovers that he is all out of honey for his breakfast.
Oh, bother.
Bother. So he decides that he's going to pay a visit to the honey tree. And he gets
That's a strip club on Sunland.
Oh, man. I don't even have a comeback for that. That was very good. And he like borrows a balloon from Christopher Robin, I believe, and he floats up to get honey out of the, from the beehive and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Balloon pops. He falls down.
Yeah.
So he decides, listen, I'm still hungry. I'm going to go visit Rabbit. I know that guy's got a shit ton of honey. So he pops in for a quick bite, eats too much, and can't get his fat ass out the door. And
so far you've pretty much summed up a lot of my weekends, but go ahead. Keep going.
So he goes crazy on the honey, and then gets stuck trying to get out the door. And basically all the rest of the critters in the 100-acre woods try to push him out and pull him out from the other side.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where he's just stuck. And Rabbit has to deal with him. He's like stuck overnight, basically. And Rabbit dresses his butt up as like a chair and tries to put a hat on it and a picture frame around it. And basically, he just has to wait till he loses weight until he can fit out the door again. The gopher, I think his name is Gopher, like at least in the Disney version, tries to blow him up, or he offers to like dynamite him out of there. And he eventually shrinks, and he's pulled out by everyone. Rabbit's pushing from one end, and Christopher Robin and Eeyore and all the other animals are pulling on the other side, and he gets popped out, goes flying through the air, gets stuck in the other honey tree, where he continues to eat a bunch of the honey that's inside.
So this is like a metaphor for addiction, right?
Oh, he's 100%. It's him and Cookie Monster that are going toe to toe on who is the most furriest and addicted to there.
He needs his honey, and he has it at regular intervals. And one time he's not able to find it. So he goes to a friend looking for his fix. His friend has something, but then he overdoes it and has an OD. So then all the rest of his friends come over and try and help him. It's basically an intervention, yeah.
Pooh, we all love you, but you totally ignored my birthday. The families always seem like such
Give me that
assholes.
goddamn honey right now!
You stole all the carrots from me!
You guys are all assholes. I don't need you. I just need honey. So why did you pick that?
I see heffalumps. I see woozles.
It was honestly, it was the very first thing I thought of. It's just delightful.
Yeah.
Like he's trapped, but he's okay with being trapped.
Yeah.
Like he's ultimately.
What a way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. He's delighted in, but he brought it on himself.
Yeah.
He has no one else to blame it on other than his own addiction.
This reminds me of every year at my birthday. Do you do this when they sing the happy birthday song and you're looking at the candles and you have to blow out the candles, but before you blow out the candles you make a wish, or you have to make a wish? You've done this, right?
Sure, of course.
And then I'm always, the first thing I think about is the wish that I really want, which is like to be able to drink again and then have sex with porn stars, and then I'm in a big pile of money and I'm doing drugs even though I don't do drugs, but people tell me drugs are great. And then
they're good, yeah.
And I'm just laying in a big sea of boobs and porn,
sea of boobs,
and masturbating.
There's sharks there. Watch out.
Yeah. And then I realize I'm standing like my grandma's there, and my parents are there, and all my friends are there, and I should probably wish something like maybe nobody dies of cancer or something. And the whole time I think, fuck you people. I want my porn and my boobs and my money, but I'm just going to wish that you guys don't die of horrible deaths and you're okay.
Weren't the Winnie-the-Pooh books, like the original A.A. Milne ones, a lot kind of darker? Not like dark.
Those are the George R.R. Milne.
Yes. Now, I seem to remember them being like Eeyore's kind of not just kind of sullen, but he's kind of a dick. And
he's got a knife and he'll stab you too.
I still remember like one of the stories, like it's when Kanga and Roo first show up, and that nobody like wants them there because they don't know what a kangaroo is. Am I insane about this? I seem to remember like picking these up for one of my kids and reading one of the stories. I'm like, oh, that's slightly different than the happy 100-acre woods.
Yeah, the original text of most things tend to, like, old fables are always a lot more brutal than they turn into. I'm sure you're right.
Yeah.
Like all of Roald Dahl stuff is
Yeah, they're all cautionary.
Cautionary,
sure.
but
Yeah.
then but mean. And then once they kind of get Disney-fied or whatever version, that
they sanitized and
the edges are sanded down quite a bit.
Because those animals are all mortal enemies in the forest. Wouldn't they just rip each other's throats out?
What type of bear is Pooh, other than a Pooh bear? What is a Pooh bear?
A honey bear.
Is it a sun bear?
Oh, golden bear.
As a kid, I was remember
sun
Winnie
bear.
the Pooh, Jabba the Hutt, Attila the Hun. Like anything with the in it is curious. Like what motivates that?
Well, there's only one of them. He's the only bear.
Oh, okay.
The bear.
So my choice as judge, I get to do one good thing, and my choice is just Michael and pulling the podcast out of the morbid and depressing category. There's probably an E for explicit on it anyhow. So. And my favorite trapped things are those Instagram videos where you find people rescuing an animal from some kind of thing. And here's this. So in those show notes links, there's going to be a link to people in Egypt have been feeding a trapped dog for a month, and a group of 5 worked 5 days to rescue her. Meet Rook, and then there's that one of the ducks. So I love things where people bond together to save somebody, especially a cute little dog, because sometimes it could have been a murderer who was trapped, and everybody frees him and rescues him, and he goes out about on a killing spree again. I mean, it could happen, right?
So the dog was a murderer? Was it Cujo? So
I'm not going to say what
I
it
like
was or
I
wasn't.
like a good rescued animal story.
we didn't choose trapped in the closet.
I thought about it, but like we would just go down that deep well of.
Well, see, go down the well, then we have to get somebody to rescue us.
I mean, really, in Trapped in the Closet, he's trapped in the closet in the first episode only.
Oh,
And then the rest of it is just like nonsense. Like it doesn't.
all of it is nonsense.
Well, yes, you're
all
right.
of it is nonsense.
that stuff makes Medea seem like normal. Like, you know what's funny? The Boo, that movie that's out right now. I want to see that movie because everything else that's on TV with the election is so fucking insane. Now Medea starts to seem like this all makes sense.
It's
okay.
all a Tyler Perry conspiracy.
So Richard won, and I'll tell you why.
Because I'm the best.
Because he's the best guy named Richard Manfredi at this table, and his choices, I think, were very eclectic. He chose Bill Murray from Groundhog Day and Punxsutawney
Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania?
Punxsutawney, guys. Let's
Sam
get it together.
Beckett, which was the ultimate existential name, even though Sam Beckett wrote existential plays. He was the main character in Quantum Leap, and the Japanese director and actress kidnapped. South Korean. Oh, sorry.
They're not all the same, Jeff.
I'm not saying that for all our South Korean listeners out there. We're probably just as big as South Korea as we are in the United States. Sailors of the USS Indianapolis. And then, so that was a pretty phenomenal rack of choices. And Michael chose some other stuff. So
you're saying I won because I had a phenomenal rack?
You do.
He's still thinking of those boobs and the.
Oh,
exactly.
God. Oh, you guys are still here? Okay. One last reason I want to implore you listeners. Michael and Richard and I are trapped in this studio. We don't know how to get out. So please, if anybody's coming in the area of North Hollywood.
We've actually been in here for like 3 days.
Every episode, it smells so much like poop in here because there's so much poop in here, you guys.
Right.
So please
send help.
Send help.
Or else I'm going to have to eat one of you two. And I don't know which one of you two is more delicious.
The best way you can send help is to review us. We'll see those. We see the reviews and the ratings first.
Yeah.
And we'll reply with our address.
Yeah. Because why even bother living if you're not going to help us? This has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. I'm always Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.